From law enforcement to sales to real estate business owner, Nolan has a really cool background of different jobs and different careers. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Life Podcast, where we just dig in and find out people's story, find their history, find out about them. Today I've got the incredible honor of sitting with my good friend Nolan. And come on, man. And Nolan, from law enforcement to sales to real estate business owner, Nolan has a really cool background of different jobs and different careers. But we're going to talk about identity a little bit. But before we get into that, I want to know about you, man.
Hey, first of all, thanks for having me here, man. I've been looking forward to this, sitting down with you. And
totally, man.
I kind of feel like a DJ a little bit, with these headsets. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, we've done the sit down at coffee shops or sandwich places or whatever. But this is kind of, I don't know if it's more formal because I don't really know what I'm doing that much. But hey, before we go any further, man, if you like hearing people's stories, like and subscribe to this. Also, click the alert button so you'll know when a new podcast releases. They release normally on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. And let's get into it.
Smash that subscribe button. Let's go.
Come on. So, hey, why don't you start with just telling me about your family? Do you have brothers and sisters, mom, parents?
Yeah.
Kind of where does Nolan come from?
Well, I'm the oldest there's three of us, all boys. So I've got a middle brother. We're about 4 years apart. And then I've got my youngest brother. We're about 15 years apart. He's a souvenir.
Come on
a parents' trip. We joke with him all the time. But so I got two brothers. Like I mentioned, I'm the oldest. And then, my parents, I grew up in the Bay Area. And my parents, we moved up north into Humboldt County, Northern Cal. And that's really where I kind of got to grow up. It was pretty much fifth grade on through high school. While I was up there, I actually went to Fortuna, and that's where I met Eileen.
Come on.
My senior year of high school. I'm not going to lie, man, that was a hard one. I had to pursue her for about a good 8 months before she would even talk to me really outside of just, hey, what's up? So when I graduated high school, my family decided, my parents, they kind of just were waiting for me to graduate, but they decided they were going to move to Maui. And so Eileen and I were just kind of dating that year, and I knew we were going to move. So we kind of had to navigate that and say, what do you want to do after high school? And I was like, man, I don't really know, but I really want to go to Hawaii. I was excited, had all this probably like fantasy of like what life's going to be like on the island, palm trees, tropical drinks. That's all I was thinking. It's going to be nice. So after high school, moved. And my third day on the island, I actually got my first job and plugged to the helicopter company. The first one that hired me, it was Blue Hawaiian Helicopters, right in Kahului. And I tell you, it was mind-blowing for me because I went from making like $5.75 at a grocery store, in NorCal, to like $20 an hour on the island. And I was like, man, this is legit, And I would call Eileen at night because she ended up going to Ohio for the summer to visit with her grandparents. And that was kind of like her graduation present to go hang out with grandma and grandpa in Ohio. And so while I was there, I ended up running into one of our neighbors there, and he was actually the general manager of a restaurant called Mama's Fish House. Martin Lenny, I still remember him, great guy. And when Eileen came over, finally, after the 3 months, I just told her, hey, this is where we're going to be. Opportunities everywhere. This is a great place. I'm loving Maui. So she got a job at Mama's Fish House, and she's very loyal. She stayed there the whole time we lived on Maui. She worked at one place.
Now, how long had you dated before she moved to Maui? Like, how long did you dated before when you lived here in the States or the lower?
Officially together, I want to say it was 3 months.
Wow.
Officially.
So 3 months and then deciding to move to Hawaii, that's kind of a big deal.
I want to count all that pursuing months.
You're 11 months of hard work into this.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, man. And so that's why it was fresh. And we had talked about it, said, hey, what do you want to do? And so when she came over, we were living, where my parent, with my parents at the time. And, Dad's kind of, hey, what's going on? You can't just like play house here. And, what's the deal? So I'm working at Blue Hawaiian Helicopters. One of the pilots there actually is an ordained pastor. I had told him, hey, have you ever married someone in a helicopter? And he's like, no, but I'm like, could you? And he's like, yeah, I could totally do that. And I was like, dude, I want to do, like, that would be crazy, right? So this was right around, so we got married in 2002. And so September 11th had happened, right? And I don't know if it happened yet. What year was September 11th? Was that 01? I think it was 01. What it was is her dad was in the Air Force and he was getting deployed. So we knew he wasn't going to be part of the wedding. You know what I mean? To walk her down the aisle. So we were getting creative is what I'm trying to get at. So I told her, hey, I got this idea. What if we got married in the helicopter? And she was up for it. So we actually got married up in the air in a helicopter.
Dude, that's wild.
And what's really cool is our wedding certificate doesn't have an address for a location. It's got the longitude and latitude of where we got married. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool,
yeah.
dude.
I thought that was, it's part of our story, There's a lot to go into that because we ended up getting stranded up on the mountain with some fog and stuff.
I heard the story, man.
I don't want to bore people with that story, but it kind of set the tone of our relationship. We're adventurous. We like to do, fun things and experiences. And it started from our marriage right away. And so we're married. We get our own place. We're living up country up in Makawao. And things are going well. And then I got an opportunity to go work at the Four Seasons. So I took that. So I worked at the Four Seasons in Wailea in hospitality. It was great. I was working poolside. Had a really, really great time there. Met a lot of great people, a lot of opportunity. And then I decided I didn't want to do hospitality forever.
Yeah.
And I think it was more of a pride thing than a money thing because the money was good.
Yeah, I bet.
But I was kind of like, I didn't want to, I was thinking about having kids and I was like, I don't want my kid to be at school, be like, oh, my dad's a mechanic and my dad's this. And yeah, my dad's a pool boy, Vanna boy. So that was more of, I think it was a pride thing where I was like, I'm going to do something. So when I was in high school, a good buddy of mine, my best friend, Grant, we actually did a explore program with the ambulance because we thought it was kind of cool. So I talked to Eileen and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go do firefighting, And the island's really hard to get in. Well, it's not like a good old boys, but I mean, a lot of people know everybody there. It's very connected. And so I decided I was going to go get my fire science degree. So it put me in a good position. So while I'm going to Maui Community College, one of the instructors was like, hey, there's a test coming up for fire. You guys should definitely go do it. It's a difficult test and just kind of get experience. So when you get your certs, you're prepared and you're ready. So I go there and I remember there were one side was police and one side was fire. And I just said, hey man, can I just do like both of these tests or whatever? And so I went and did my fire and then went and did my police test. I never even heard back from the fire department. I don't know, nothing. But the police department sent me back a thing and said, hey man, you passed all your stuff. Here's your background. Go ahead and fill it out and everything. So that kind of wasn't on the radar. Being a police officer. And I was nervous, a little bit, but kind of excited because I was just kind of like, oh, that'd be kind of cool, to do the police work. And I really had a servant's heart. And I was like, I feel like this is my calling. This is going to be great. Long story short, I ended up going through with it. My mom will never forget this, but I didn't tell my parents initially at first. And we were at their house one night. They were having dinner. And I was like, hey, I'll go ahead and pray. And so I'm doing the prayer for dinner. And I said, and prepare my parents' heart for when I tell them about being accepted to the police academy to be a police officer. And my mom lost it. I mean, she was just crying. And I was like, well, what's going on? I thought you'd be proud. And my dad was like, oh, that's kind of cool, And she's just like, I kept you away from this kind of stuff your whole life and protected you. Now you're going to go into it. And at the time, I didn't really understand what she was talking about. I'm like, you should be proud of me. This is a big deal. Maui police officer. This is going to be great. I'm providing. I got a good career, retirement, all those kind of things. So I ended up going through the academy. It was very long. While I was at the academy, I ended up getting stationed in Kihei. And had a great run, did a lot of traffic stuff, did a lot of specialty training. I was fortunate enough, I think it was about my third year, I became a certified crash reconstructionist. And so that's a fatal reconstruction and went through all that training. And so that was really cool. And I really focused on DUIs and traffic and, things like that in the community. Things were going well. When I'm a police officer, the next step is you got to buy a house. You just got to keep things going. So Eileen and I, we bought our first house. And we lived in it for 2 years. And at the time, I bought it for sale by owner because I didn't know anything about it. And I didn't have any money. I was just young. I just turned 20. And I was like, we're buying a house. And so we bought it for sale by owner. And these people were so gracious. I'll remember it forever. I just went up to the house because it had a for sale by owner sign. And I said, hey, I just got married. I'm going into the police force and I'm looking to buy a house in town. And I'd like to buy your house. And he's just like, man, come check out the house. And I'll tell you what, if you go to my lender that we use and she says you're good, we'll pay your closing costs and everything to make sure everything happens, which was a huge blessing.
Yes. Wow.
And I mean, for not knowing everything about that, what a score on your first deal.
No
you know
kidding.
what I mean? But because they weren't, at the time, ARM loans were so easy to get. And that's what I got, an adjustable rate loan. So not being educated on that, I learned a lot of things. And that kind of sets up where we're going to go with this story. So here we are, we buy a house. 2 years in, we got a refi because, we got this ARM loan, which we knew we were only fixed for 2 years. Let's see here. We ended up getting a refi and we had about $225 or a little over $225,000 worth of equity in the house. So we decided to sell it. So we sold it, took that money and bought another house, you know what I mean? And again, bought more than we could afford because we just got the adjustable rate mortgage loan. Hey, it's the low interest rate, no problem. It worked good on the first one. It's definitely going to work on the next one. Long story short, we ended up buying several homes. And in 2008, I got caught with my pants down. Man, I bought way more houses than I could afford. I was in terrible loans, which I wasn't educated at the time. Nothing was fixed. And these rates were just adjusting. And mortgages were going from like $3,000 to $5,000. They were just jumping. And at the time, my mom actually ended up getting into real estate. And so she ended up just listing them for us. And we didn't know at the time when you did what's called a short sale, they're going to 1099 you the difference. We just thought it was getting forgiven. They're kind of like, oh yeah, we'll just forgive you of the debt. We're like, okay, so we're short selling. Okay, got it. But what they didn't tell me was you're going to get that as income.
Oh, wow.
Of the difference. And so, we were young and just trying to figure it out. And we had Corbin, my oldest, he was born in 06. And then we had Trayson in 09. And so at that time, we are just liquidating. We are dumping everything. And one of the guys that was in my academy, his name was Dennis, he's actually from Coeur d'Alene. He worked for the Kootenai County. And so he came over and transferred to Maui, and he was in our recruit class. And he talked a lot about Idaho, and we kind of connected on that because, when I was a kid, we used to go to Tahoe to ski and the lakes, and I was really drawn to that. And he kept saying, he's like, man, Coeur d'Alene kills Tahoe. This is where it's at. If I wasn't on Maui, because my family's over here now, I would be in Coeur d'Alene. And I start really talking to him about it, going, hey, I might have to bail and go somewhere. And we were talking about real estate and how inexpensive it was when he purchased, and he had owned homes here and got going. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start researching this place. So I just dug in deep on this Panhandle area. So I ended up applying at Meridian, McCall, Coeur d'Alene, and Sandpoint. Meridian was just more because it was a bigger department, because in Maui, we have over 300 officers, but all these other departments were a lot smaller. Sandpoint was like 12. Call was 6 or 5. It was small. Coeur d'Alene was kind of like my next big, but I definitely wanted to be around the lakes and have an area where, I was going to raise my family, my boys, and we decided we're going to go back to the mainland. So I ended up getting hired at Sandpoint and moved over. So that's how I ended up in Idaho, and I worked patrol there. And it was a huge adjustment for me. I really thought, man, it's a small department. I'm just going to high five people and kiss babies, help elderly people cross the street. It's going to be super chill. And it was just not a good fit. But, I finished it out and decided, okay, now that I'm vested, I can actually go out and move on, because I cross-trained. I went through the firefighting and my EMT basic and pulled shifts at the fire department, and police. So I just did it all, just to stay busy and go. And I kind of always had this entrepreneurial spirit of wanting to do my own thing. I'm going to give a plug to my buddy, because when I was in patrol in Maui, I connected with a guy, Aaron Graziano. He's on Maui. Man, that was at the time we were both at the hotels. I'm at the Four Seasons. He's at the Grand Wailea, but we got into graphic designing and making stickers. And we used to do the swap meet on the weekend and sell stickers to tourists and all kinds of stuff. And we started distributing CDs, local music, and really started taking off. I think the first company name we had was Signs and Wonders, kind of. That was our thing, because we did real estate signs, we did banners, we did all this stuff. And even when I was in the police department, when we had, fundraisers and stuff, we were making banners for it and, just taking off. And long story short, when I moved to Maui, I actually took one of the sticker machines, or from Maui to Idaho, took one of our first sticker machines that we had, but he stayed in with it. And he got into apparel, like hats and stuff like that, which I can get into a little bit later. His plug is he owns Double Portion Sales now on the island of Maui, and a phenomenal company, great guy, still friends to today. And he just built a wonderful business, and we just started it, out of the garage, I remember printing shirts ourselves, a lot of cool stuff. So I wanted to get back into doing something if I'm getting out of patrol, kind of in that realm. So I started stickers a little bit, selling them to dealerships to put on the back of the cars, trying to figure out something. And I met a gentleman, his name is Mark from Sandpoint, and that was the publisher of the Daily Bee at the time, knew I had gotten out of patrol and was like, hey, you got to meet this guy because he could sell anything and blah, blah, blah. So he set me up to meet Mark, and it was to help him sell. And so at the time when I met with Mark, this is up in Sandpoint, he owned a big printing company. And I was going to go in and liquidate all of his inventory and sell it. And he had products. He had really cool products. He had imported stuff that he was printing himself, but he also had some items that were, kind of taken off, like Vino to Go cups or these like wine tumblers and stuff. So it was just really cool to be like, okay, I'll just sell everything. Well, while I'm there and touring his place, he's got multiple machines that are set up for printing. And so I was like, what is all this stuff? And he goes, well, these are all print machines. And I was like, what do you print? He goes, well, coffee mugs and water bottles and all this kind of stuff. And I said, is there a limitation on what you can print? And he goes, man, if it's round, we can print on it, from cups to 5-gallon buckets. I mean, as long as it spins, we can print on it. So it's kind of a crazy story. I just started talking about, the craft beer industry, because that was kind of taken off. I said, they got these growlers and people collect them. And I'm like, man, when people collect things, that's awesome, because people will buy and keep buying. If you're collecting, that's where you want to sell people. And so he said, you know what, I'd entertain that, because he had all the equipment to do it. I was just new blood. And he said, why don't you go home and write a business plan? And then we'll check it out. And I said, yeah, no problem. And I'm like, man, I've never written a business plan before in my life. What's this going to be? So I might be going into too much detail, so you can cut me off.
They probably didn't have AI back then for your business.
No, none of it. But if I'm going into too much detail, you just kill me, dude.
You're cool.
So I end up coming back with him and saying, okay, I researched where we can get glassware, where we can go, what the pricing is. And I said right away, we've got breweries like Laughing Dog and McDuff's and, all these that are just local. We can just try it out with them and everything. So bless him. He just said, okay, let's partner on this thing and let's build it up. So we founded this company called Clearwater Gear. It's another plug, man. I'm plugging everybody here.
Come on.
Clearwater
Gear is still in business?
Yeah, it's in Sandpoint. It's the parent company is Lighthouse Custom Printing. And so we just made this spinoff together just for servicing the craft beer industry. And man, I just started cold calling breweries and just started selling, and it just took off, and we just took over the West. I mean, pretty much anything west of Colorado, we were pretty much printing for and working deals with breweries, and that was a lot of fun. And then we took it to a whole nother level and went to China and started manufacturing and importing our own growlers. And then the big name to fame in that was we came up with the double wall insulated keg growler. So you've probably seen those around town even now. They're powder coated and dipped. And that was kind of like the big name to fame. And so that was a lot of fun, flying over to China, each year and going to factories and just I got to piggyback behind him, and he was already, I believe it was so successful because he had already laid the foundation of successful business. Yeah. I just came in as an engine just saying, hey, we're going to go. And we do it. And we went to Great American Brew Fest. I mean, it was just such a great experience. Well, as we grew, we got noticed. And when you get noticed, the option is obviously sell or expand and take market share. And we had talked about selling and what that would look like. And so I decided that was cool and I was good with it. So we ended up selling out on our side and went down to Coeur d'Alene. And so he's still up in Sandpoint doing his business. And so I moved down here and we bought a house in Coeur d'Alene and moved down here, and I knew nobody. And so I decided, okay, this is me starting over again. I've already had to start over once, come into Idaho.
Yeah.
Now I'm here and I got to start over again. What am I going to do? And real estate just was what came first, because at the time when I moved here, I knew the pastor of our church and the real estate agent that sold us our house. I mean, that's all I knew. And so then we just started connecting. I got licensed and I started selling real estate, but I started struggling. Real estate wasn't, it didn't come easy.
Yeah.
And it kind of stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah, because up to now you've had like success in a lot of places.
I kind of like everything I was touching was just kind of flowing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. This is the first time I'm questioning my life's decisions. And I go pretty fast. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I screwed up.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have just stayed up in Sandpoint and kept the business going. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten out, kind of a thing. And I ended up joining a team at the time because I thought that would be the best way for me to meet more people without having to just pay to play. And so when you join a team, it was actually good because what I realized is I was thriving to be a team member again. In Patrol, I was a team member, and at Blue Hawaiian, I mean, everything was team. And it wasn't until I did the printing that it really wasn't a team. It was just kind of like run and go. And I was really looking for that. And so I did the team thing for, I think just about 2.5 years maybe. And then I went out on my own. But I struggled in those years. And it wasn't until, truly if I had to just be hot right now, which is honest, open, and transparent.
Yeah, come on.
Man, it wasn't that I was struggling in real estate because I didn't have skill to hustle and do the work. It was the fact that I wouldn't let go of my past to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point for me. I remember a day I visualized taking a flag and sticking it in the ground and say, I'm a real estate agent, and that's all I'm going to do. And that was a turning point for me because for those 2 years, I felt that I was holding on to everything that I had accomplished. And because I was failing at this, I held on to it for comfort and I used it as a clutch. So like I would meet you and be like, yeah, hey, I'm Nolan. I'm going to show you houses. And then it was like, because I used to do real estate, for all these years, or a police officer for all these years, like justifying. And then I did a printing. Like it was more like I was trying to get people's buy-in. And I wasn't just saying, they didn't care. They just came to me, but I was holding on to it and it really limited me. And it wasn't until I just let it go. And I was just like, hey, my name's Nolan. I'm a real estate agent. I'm in my first year by myself. Let's do this. And just went for it and owned it. And it kind of got me thinking, a lot of times I think whether you're doing your own business or you're just kind of in a funk or whatever it is, sometimes we're holding on to our past, our accomplishments, and all these things that you just got to let them go to be able to move forward and live in your new calling, your new chapter. And I held on to it for so long that it really held me back. Yeah. And I didn't recognize that until I finally did that flag in the ground, like this is what I'm going to do, that things just started hitting and we were connecting. That was in 2019 that I went solo. And I've been solo ever since. My wife, Eileen, she got licensed, so we work together. We have the Idaho Listings Group here in Coeur d'Alene, and I'm also licensed in Washington, so now I'm doing dual state. I've been in Washington just over 5 years. Yeah. And man, what a blessing. Real estate changed my life.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting, and I think when we were talking originally before, I said, hey, dude, you got to come on the podcast or whatever. You talked about just that, like that whole finding your identity and kind of holding on to things that maybe that are in our past or whatever. And I think that we do that with relationships. We do that with jobs. We do that with a lot of things. And I know you talked about the moment that you like stuck the flag in the ground and said, this is what I am.
Yeah.
That was kind of a turning point. Can you think of things, or are there specific things that happened that kind of helped you realize that? Because I think a lot of times we go through life not even realizing that we're holding on to something in the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked that. It's a great question because little secret, I went to counseling. When I left Patrol and you have that authority, I moved right into like the business ownership role. Yeah. And that was good. And then when I was struggling, it was like a point where I felt like the first time in my life I was a failure. And I held on to things. And Eileen had said, you need to go talk to somebody. Like you're in a funk. something, I'm always trying to rein you back and I'm trying to push you, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And I had told her, hey, this is the first time I'm scared. I don't know if I made the right decision. And it's almost like I'm digging in sand. Like it's just I'm not clicking as much. I'm putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort for little fruit, but I don't want to quit. Like I want to stay with it. So it was through counseling that I realized I was holding on to my past. I was holding on to rewards for recognition, affirmation, and these other roles that I was in that I had my identity in. And it wasn't until I recognized that I could see it in everything I was doing. And that was the turning point. And it was helpful. And, that's the thing. It's another thing with not having an identity. I'm okay to share that I went to counseling. But before, I don't know if I wanted to share that because I was just always worried about your perception or other people. Man, I just want to be authentic and true. So I got no problem. I love sharing with people because I've encouraged people. You know what? I actually went and got counseling. And it helped me on this. And then we even went a step further when we wanted our marriage to get on. I've been through marriage counseling. And I think that's a great thing. And I don't think we talk about it enough because, maybe someone watching today is like, man, I can kind of relate to that. And it's not maybe in my job, but maybe it's in my marriage because I'm holding on to what we had before. And it was full of joy and excitement. And now it's been 20 years and, hey, what's up? I come home like, hey, what's for dinner? You know what I mean? And maybe they're like, man, it's kind of a wake-up call. Maybe I should talk to my wife about maybe let's go to counseling to let's just get on the same page again because, it's just a slow gap at first, but over years, that gap, that's small. You're just separated. And, this has helped me with guys. You're familiar with it, but I do a word every year. You ever done that?
Yeah, I've seen you do it. I have not done a word every year.
Bro, you got to do a word of the year.
I'm going to do a word this year. I don't know what the word's going to be.
I don't know, man. If people have a word of the year, tell them to comment it, put it in the comments of what their word of the year is because it's a real thing, man. We did vision boards, with our kids before. Yeah. But, Eileen, actually, I got to give her props, man. She's the rock. She's just solid. She had her word of the year first, and then I saw how that kind of evolved and everything, and I was like, word of the year. And so I'd done it, the years prior, but this year was really impactful to me. And so I was just thinking, I want a word. And I'm praying about it to see if I don't hear anything, I'm like, man, I don't know what to do. So I'm writing all these words down like victory, thrive in 25, it sounds great, right? Like cheese ballish. But this one word, I wrote out the word belong and it stuck with me on that page. And I was like, man, belong. That's my word. So this whole entire year, I focused on the word belong. And that's building relationships with people and including them. Because I've been rejected before in relationships, friendships, all these things that we hold on to. And I didn't want to carry that baggage forward. Counseling helped me to get what true forgiveness is. I held on to grudges. And that grudge is towards people creates bitterness. And then bitterness, is into resentment. And, all these things if you don't just put a stop to it, that stuff just, I use the analogy, you'll hear me. I mean, we've talked before, but I talk about pebbles in your shoes. And so pebbles in the shoes, when I think about it, that's when I'm in a situation where I was wronged, hurt, abandoned, whatever these issues are. And instead of like manning up and just saying, hey, you know what, Dave, the way you talked to me earlier today, that really hurt, that hurt me because I look up to you and I value you as a friend, but you were talking down to me, you were condescending and all, we don't have these real conversations. Sorry. Yeah, you better apologize right now.
Dang it.
Not man. Dave, not by any means. But so what I would talk about that is instead of me doing that, I just avoid it. Yeah. And so I take that pebble and I just put it in my shoe and I'll just deal with it never. Right. So we're constantly putting pebbles in our shoe. That's just one example. It could be just coming home and, hey, hon, how's your day? And there's an argument or whatever. And you're just like, I'm not even going to try anymore. Instead, I'll just go put the pebble in my shoe. So as men, I feel like, sometimes we just walk around with pebbles in our shoes and two things are going to happen. You're either going to be really sore and then you're going to step wrong and go off on whoever's close to you and start hurting those that are really in your circle, or you're just going to go numb and you don't feel anymore. And I've been there. Yeah. I've been in a place in my life where I've been numb to things. And that's scary, when you're not feeling. So another thing, plug for the counseling, I worked through these things. And so I wanted people to experience that. So I started, I had a good friend, I knew, and, we were buddies, and he ended up passing away, and that kind of set me back a little bit. He was young and had a beautiful family, and that was just it was a tough thing to go through. And it really made me just stop and evaluate, man, I wonder if there was any pebbles in his shoes that he didn't take care of. And did I do enough in our friendships? Do I have any regrets? You start analyzing things when something like that hits you. Yeah. And so that's why I started Guys Night. Oh, you've been to a couple?
Guys Night,
it's awesome, and I love it. So we do the Guys Night, and that's part of belonging. It's just having a place at my house where, people come. Guys, it's dudes only. Sorry, ladies, if you're watching, but it's Guys Night. Maybe they'll do Girls Night.
So they hear this, they're gonna be like, "Dude, why can't we let girls come?"
Well, that's the thing. Women don't have a problem calling their friend and saying, "Hey, I'm feeling sad right now," or "I'm hurt." I think guys, we kind of hang on to it, and it's an identity thing. It's like, I don't want to come to you and say, "Hey, man, I failed in my marriage this week and I'm struggling. You got any advice for me?" Guys don't do that. Guys are just like, "Oh yeah, the old lady, how it is." And we just go down the road, or whatever. And we're just not as intentional. And I think that's what I'm trying to really do, is build a community of just good dudes that like to hang around and that want to be better and want to sharpen one another.
Yeah.
And that's been a great thing, man. I'm loving it. I don't know where I'm going because I kind of talk all over the place.
No, dude, the guys, that was awesome. I just say, next time, I mean, obviously next time, because we did it this time, but we got to have the Buffalo Trace available.
Oh, got to have a little bourbon on the side? Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do that up.
I don't know. I might be dangerous on this mic.
We don't have bourbon on the podcast, but at your house, it's okay.
Yeah, it's definitely okay. But, and that's the thing is, the whole word belong this year, I took it to business as well. I wanted people that I was working with to feel like, they're included, they belong, they're my priority, and attention and all those things. So it really helped me to get dialed in, focused, systematic, having processes. So that way there's a standard that I provide in real estate now. So it went from building great relationships and friendships, my marriage, and now business. It's great. But I'm not going to toot my own horn. I'm not an angel. I still have my own struggles, your own strongholds, all these things in all those categories. I'd love to say I have the most blissful marriage ever because I know all the secrets. I don't. I've been married to Eileen now 23 years. We're hitting 24 in, a couple months. All the grace goes to her. She's got more grace than me, but she's, that's what's the other thing that's funny is people, I had someone ask me just the other day, "Hey, I got engaged. You got any marital advice?" And I just said, "Yeah, man, listen, your wife's going to grow up. She's going to grow up faster than you. So don't get upset about it, but you're going to be just tailing." And Eileen definitely grew up faster than I did. She just matured. And it's funny. I always joke. I said, all the things that she loved about me when we were dating. Oh, he's spontaneous and he's just adventurous and all this. Now it's like, I need structure. What's the plan? And I'm like, I don't have a plan. If we're going to rock it, we're going to do this. She's like, no, what is it? So all those things that, she fell in love with before, it's not so much her favorite now, but we're growing together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you, obviously think highly of you. I mean, you're a good buddy of mine, but I will say, I know Eileen a little bit, and you may have outkicked her coverage there.
Listen, you don't even have to preach, man. I married way out of my league,
That's
man.
not as I did too, so it's not a slam.
Yeah,
let's see, what am I? 34 years this year. So I'm exactly 10 years up, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give me, man?
Dude.
You got 10 years.
I'd hope that I'd know more now than I did then, but I still feel like the more I learn, the more I feel like I don't know. The more I learn, I was like, oh, dude, I feel like I learned something, and then I feel like, oh gosh, that just unlocked the key to me realizing that there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know
that I got to work on. But and that's the thing, man. Relationships and even marriage. I mean, we're all in process, man. And whether that's your relationship in your faith, whether that's your relationship in your marriage, your friendships, your business, and it's where you're spending your time. And I think right now, my biggest struggle is the relationship I have with the phone. And that's probably the biggest struggle in even just my relationship, just being, hot, honest, open, and transparent. The phone's an issue, and I justify it. Oh, because of work, and I need this, and I need that. Well, really what it is it allows me to stay busy so I don't have to deal with anything. And that's the problem. So it's almost like, God bless Charlie Kirk, but he was hardcore on the sabbatical with no phone from his Friday. His schedule. Yeah. And I'll tell you, he had a relationship with Erica that was amazing. And I think it really contributes to just shutting the world off for just a little bit, just to regroup, stay grounded.
Totally true. It's difficult, man, but it's totally true. It's maybe you've never done this. I've done this where I've
done everything at least once.
Instagram, and I'll be doing these, watching these stories or whatever. And then I'll look down and I'm like, dude, that was like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And
the rabbit hole.
What the heck just happened? That's 40 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back.
Man, we have the term in our house, and people, we didn't make it up, but the kids will do it. Like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I was just on the phone. The kids, are you just rotting? You're just rotting. So we say it to them, like, oh, you just rotting over there? And they're like, oh, yeah, what? You need help? Yeah, you can really go down those trails of just hours. Yeah. And some of it's fun. And, I think some of that, too, is, as men, sometimes it's hard to go and admit and say, you know what, hun, I was completely out of line. And I processed it. And the way I talked to you was hurtful. I didn't say, like mean things at you, but I mean, my tone. Women are so in tune to tone. Men, I think we talk fast, or we talk each other. We over talk each other. We're fighting for, hey, I'm just talking, then you're just jumping in, and we're not pausing and having probably a real quality conversation most of the time as guys, when we're just kind of talking and shooting the breeze. And so what happens is, instead of going and doing that, taking a pause and just saying, look, I was out of line and I'm sorry, and I know that hurt you, and I'm going to work towards that, or whatever. It's just like, you know what? I'm going to avoid that conversation. I'll just doom scroll, or I'll just go to the bar or go to the shop and just spend 2 hours out there just so I'm busy, and I just avoid it, and just hopefully we go to bed and just it goes away. That's just that pebble, man. You're just putting pebbles in. So hopefully people take this away, that, if you're feeling numb, or you're feeling like, you're hurting because you're walking around on rocks, it's okay to take a pause and dump out the rocks, whether that looks like forgiveness, going up to someone and apologizing, sharing with somebody, if it was something that hurt you and you just said, look, man, can I have a serious conversation with you? This was, because I think, we carry on all that baggage. And the problem is, when you get rid of it, though, you can't go back and pick it up. You got to let it go. And so that's been really instrumental in the development for me, just even staying healthy, because, in real estate, there's a lot of rejection. I wish I'd say there's a ton of loyalty, but, not always. And so if you're building relationships and people feel like they belong, whether it's your business that you're doing now or whatever, I mean, that's where you're going to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, kind of getting to that theme of identity, and what you just said, we take stuff and we throw it back.
Yeah. You get rid of it.
But unfortunately, we like to go back and pick it back up again. And then we get our whole identities. It's like, dude, I got rid of this.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get rid of it. I just put it.
I set it down
so I can grab it again.
Yeah.
And then we get focused on, we get trapped in this not being present, not being who we are created to be in the here and now. Because I think that there's times, like in my 20s, maybe I was supposed to be this. Mm. And then in my 30s, maybe I'm the same thing from 20 to 80. I do the same career, do the same whatever. But I think sometimes there's different seasons in our lives where we're doing different things. And so I really like what you had to say about identity. Like, it was hard to really succeed in your real estate career when you're wanting to approach things from your cop career, or when you're wanting to relate to people like you would in your cop career. Because I'm sure that when you're a police officer, you pull someone over, you walk up to somebody, and you've got your uniform on, your badge on, your gun on. There's a certain level of, not everybody, but there's a certain level of respect that people are just right away like, oh, dude.
Totally. Well, we even say it. We just say, we call that command presence, listen, and you uphold yourself. And there is authority that is given to you. And especially at a young age, I mean, as much as I liked it, it was almost detrimental to me. I mean, I was young. And I mean, it was pretty much, you went to the squad room, we had roll call, you're out the door, they're pretty much just like, hey, don't get in trouble, don't get sued, don't die. Let's go. And you're just like gone. And it was a brotherhood, though, and it was really good. And you grow really, with your, the squad that you're working with, you grow tight. And those bonds are, you'll have forever. It's kind of, relationships that, you went through, like even like my classmates in the recruit class. I mean, we started out with 21, we graduated 6. It was hard. It was tough. Those guys, I mean, you're on the road with them. You're like, I got your back, and they got your back. And that's a good feeling. What I had to realize is the skills of patrol helped me to be able to navigate, but you nailed it. You can't go in as a police officer.
Right.
At a showing. When everything's good, and you're like, hey, what do you think of the house? And there's like, well, I know it checks off everything, but we just don't think this is the one. You don't just go on, well, this is what you'd like to take to get this compliance, type of deal. You're just like, okay, you've got to build relationship.
Yeah.
And in patrol, you are building relationship, but it's more of just your brotherhood. It's not so much, I mean, you're doing it with the community, but you're not running into everybody all the time, so. Yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I was just thinking, like, I call someone up, I call a realtor up because I want to sell my house. I don't want them coming through my front door like a cop.
Boom, 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 boom. I'm here to your listing appointment.
Do you know why? I came over today? Because you're going to sell my house. Yeah, that's right. I kind of want the questions, the touchy-feely good stuff, the whatever. And thanks so much for sitting down with me.
Yeah,
this
man.
was awesome.
This
it was a
was
great
good.
conversation. It was awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I'm having a great time. I'm still learning how to do this podcast thing, but I'm having a blast doing it.
This is awesome. Yeah.
It's fun. Man, if you're watching and especially along those topics of identity, if you have some comments or things that have helped you or whatever, man, throw them in the comments because you never know, something that you say may help somebody else. It's a pretty big topic for people because sometimes other people label us and then we assume that identity, and it's the wrong identity. God created us to be who he created us to be, not who other people say that we are, or it's not even. Our identity is not even defined by our career. Our identity is defined by who God made us to be. Correct. And man, that could come in all forms of different careers. So man, hey, thanks for tuning in. Check us out Wednesdays, 9 a.m. Make sure and hit the subscribe button and then hit that reminder button or whatever, that little bell.
That bell.
Come on.
Man, you're kind of preaching right there. I like that. That was a great way to end that.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much. And I will talk to you later. I'll see you next Wednesday, 9 a.m. Bye-bye.